Welcome to Oakl's channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. Today, focus on a game called Wave Race for the original Game Boy. Now, first off, this is a really fun racing game, especially if you could do like multiplayer. The handling is excellent. The overall course design is excellent. The different power-ups you can get. I mean, it's a really well-polished, enjoyable game. However, it is also incredibly difficult. The AI for this game is probably the hardest AI I have ever played in any game at all, because even when you're going through the races, if you know like every corner, every curve just pretty much perfectly, the AI is still somehow beating you in the race. And it is a very, very difficult game to finish here. However, there are two individual modes. There's the circuit mode, which is going to be the racing, and then there's also the slalom mode, which is going to be more like an obstacle course. And the obstacle course, you can get the credits to roll that way as well. And so there are two different ways to get the credits to roll to consider finishing the game. But we're going to go through both modes here, circuit and the slalom mode, and discuss all that as we go. Now, this particular game did get moved in our queue a bit because Floating Platforms didn't request I cover this sooner or later, but actually said hold off on this game as long as I possibly can. I didn't understand why. Now I understand why, just simply because of the difficult AI inside the game. But if there's a game that you want to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of the game in the comments down below, and just like Wave Race, I'll move it right on up in the queue. Now I can start the videos up. Look at the box art for the game first, and the box art for Wave Race pretty much summarizes the game perfectly. You have your two little fellas here in their little water suits, their water helmets, on their water skis, going through the water, racing against each other, trying to cut each other off. I mean, it's exactly what you do inside the game. It says high-speed action up to 4 players, and that's if you use a link cable. I wasn't able to do that, but I think that'd be a really, really fun mode to go through in the game. And as a side note, this is actually the very first Wave Race game. It's an entire trilogy. You had Wave Race on the Game Boy, then Wave Race 64, and then Wave Race Blue Storm, I believe it was, on the GameCube. I've not played the GameCube one, but I have played this one in the 64 version. But this one I've obviously spent the most amount of hours with. Now, when you load the game up here, you once again have the fella on his water ski blasting through the waves, and you have 4 game modes you can choose from: 1 player, multiplayer, practice, or records. 1 player is obviously we're going to go through to finish the credits. We'll get to that in a second. Multiplayer is going to be your link cable functionality. Practice is basically a time trial mode, and you're going to want to practice these tracks quite a bit, just simply to memorize every single curve you're going to go through. And then the record is going to show your best overall times for the tracks, as well as your best times for the laps. And so let's go ahead and jump into the 1 player mode. Now, there are 2 different options in 1 player. You can do circuit mode, or you can do slalom. And I never heard the word slalom before, but evidently it's a common term for like water skiers or alpine skiers, for like an obstacle course they have to navigate through. But we're going to actually go into the circuit mode first, which is more of your traditional racing game here. It's going to teach you how to control your water ski, how to use your boost, how to accelerate, all the different items that you can use. This is your overall just a regular racing game. However, when I say regular racing game, it's going to start off fairly easy. When you move up in CCs, and especially when you get to the World Championship, this is a very, very difficult mode to go through. Now, when you load up 550cc, and you do have to load them up in order here, because you can't unlock the 650 or the 800 until you finish the 550. And when you load up, there are 4 courses that you should go through. The first one's going to be the Bahamas, second one's going to be Hawaii, third one's going to be Corsica, and the fourth one's going to be Rio. Now, Bahamas here, everyone's going to start off in the same direction. You're going to be on like your little runway, and it's basically to get to all your water skis up to speed, and then you enter into the main course. And when you go into the main course here, the physics are really good as far as like feels like you're on a little water ski, especially for the Game Boy. And you basically just sort of follow the course around. And if you go up to the course, there's like little buoys here, and as you go by them, it's going to turn into an emoji, like a little smiley face and whatnot. And that lets you know that you've cleared that particular one. And if you do try to go around it in the other direction for like a shortcut, it's not going to convert over to a smiley face, and you're going to have to go back around and waste a heck of a lot of time. So just simply mainly stay on the actual course. I don't think there's any shortcuts in the entire game here. Now, the Bahamas is a very straightforward course. It looks like a sideways Pac-Man, I guess I would call it. And so there's plenty of opportunities to use your boost. The A button is your boost, and the boost meter automatically refills just simply by going through the race. There's no way to do like extra tricks or little, special moves to get more boost. It just simply automatically refills, and you have to choose the best time to actually use that. And I do want to take it back for 1 second, because there is a way to actually make your boost replenish a little bit faster. If you actually pick up one of the octopuses on the track, it looks like a little Octorok from Zelda here. But if you pick that up, you would think it's like an enemy to avoid, but that's not the case at all. If you pick up this particular item here, it makes you have like star power of sorts, and anytime you ram into another boat, you steal a little bit of their boost, so you can go a little bit faster. And so there is a way to replenish your boost, but it's a fairly rare occurrence that something like this happens. And even then, like, it's almost easier just to let the boost refill automatically. Now, when you finish the Bahamas, you do get like a little after race cutscene, shows you going across the bottom. If you win first place, you're like sort of doing like a little muscle move here, showing that you are the ultimate racer. And it also shows you how many points you got. If you get first place, you get 5 points. Second place, you get 3 points. Third place, 2, and fourth place, 1. And you do have to get 15 points if you want to unlock 650cc. So the goal is not just simply to win, you have to get a certain number of points in order to advance. Now the second race is going to be Hawaii. It's going to look like a sideways shoe or a sideways boot or a sideways sock maybe. And as you're going through it, there's a few new obstacles here. You do have like little water currents that are going against you, and there are ramps that you can boost over to try to jump over the water currents, or you can just simply boost through the water currents to make it go a little bit faster as well. There are way more curves inside this course, so you are trying to focus on learning how to actually maneuver around the curves without sort of spinning out or drifting too far out. So there is some skill as far as like knowing when to let off the acceleration as well as to when to use the boost in order to blast your way in a particular direction when coming out of a curve. Now the third race here is going to be inside of Corsica, and as far as like shape-wise go, I'd probably compare it most to like an ink blot. There's plenty of spots to use your boost to really get a extra advantage on, but also there's a lot of waves that are pushing against you. And on 550cc, you can pretty much just use your boost to push through them. When you get to like 800cc or like to the World Nationals here, you're gonna have to make sure you pretty much aim your boat, or not boat, water ski just perfectly to hit the little lull spots inside here to get the most out of your boost when going through those wave areas. There's a lot of planning that's going to go into the higher CCs and the World Nationals, but when you're on 550cc's, just use your boost, fairly carelessly, and you can still get a pretty good place here. Now, the fourth track is going to be Rio, and as far as shape-wise goes, it's definitely going to be your most curvy one here. On the left side, you have some fairly broad curves, but on the right, you have pretty much a squiggly line going through here. This is probably one of the hardest courses in the entire game for me. I always have trouble going through the little squiggly lines as far as like getting my boat to do just perfectly. There is one item that you can pick up that's going to help immensely on this. There's a little swordfish, and if you pick up that particular item, it basically takes away your ability to drift, and so you can pretty much just navigate this little area perfectly. However, the swordfish rarely appears, and when he does appear, if another opponent gets him before you, it pretty much just all lost hope there. It is most definitely the hardest race inside the entire game. I did get last place on it, and so like as far as like a cutscene afterwards, instead of like strutting my muscles here, I'm actually like weeping and crying on my little water ski. A fairly entertaining scene. Now when I close it out here, I won first place. I was like, sweet, I can advance, but I only got 14 points, so I couldn't advance as far as like getting up to the next CC. I had to go through it all over again, and the second time around, I was able to get to 15 points, so I could actually advance to 600cc. Now, when you advance from one class to the next, you do get like a little cutscene of you marching through the little store here, moving up from your 550 to 600. When you get there, you do a very goofy looking jig. It's pretty entertaining, I'm not going to lie. I like the little dance here, but it is fairly goofy. Now, when you move up to 650cc, you go through the same 4 courses initially, and then there are 2 more courses added on to the end. And there's also an extra lap on every single race, so you sort of have to keep your composure a little bit longer. I'm not going to go through the first 4 courses again, but I'm going to go through the 2 new ones. You do get Sydney, and it sort of looks like the shape of Australia, at least a little bit here. As you're going through it, there are no new hazards as far as like, something groundbreaking here, but it's an overall good course. I've got fairly skilled at this one, I felt, as I was going through it. And then you get to number 6, which can be your Miami course here. It looks like a number 3 sort of shaped sideways. Maybe it's an M for Miami. That's possible as well. Once again, nothing like brand new here. You are going to start getting like little whirlpools and such as that to try to avoid, but nothing too difficult as far as the class goes. You do have to get 24 points in order to advance to 800cc. It's getting a little bit more difficult, but 24 is still achievable. And you get another little cutscene walking up to 800. And now you have 8 courses that you have to go through, the original 6, and you have 2 new ones. You have Fiji, which looks like a Fry from Futurama, at least to me here. And there are so many curves in this particular course. I found this one fairly difficult. And then the last course is going to be Bali here. And there's the usual curves on the left and a pretty large straightaway on the right. The biggest problem about this course is just simply the length of it. It is a very, very long course, which causes you to keep your composure a very long time to make sure you don't get behind. The 800cc is very, very difficult. What I would recommend is just simply playing these courses over and over and over until you have literally every single curve memorized and sort of anticipated as you're going. That's really the only way to beat 800cc here. However, even when you beat that, then the game is going to restart over and give you a sort of a blackout mode here. And now you've advanced yourself to the International Champions or the World Championship. And you get to go through all of the CCs again with even faster racers going against you, a higher AI here, the ability to just simply have what seems like unlimited boost as you're going through it. This is a very, very difficult game mode. And honestly, what I would recommend if you want to finish this game mode is just simply take every race individually. When you finish one race, go into a save state and create a save state before you go into the next one. And if you don't get first place, revert back to that save state and play it again until you get first place. And it's going to take you a heck of a long time even doing this. But I don't think there's almost any way possible to finish 800cc on the World Championship without taking every single race individually. Because it really does feel like when you're going through it, you can be ahead like the whole time, you're doing great, and then all of a sudden they have like an unlimited boost, or they just simply take the curve in a way that you didn't even think was possible, and you can't make any mistakes like the entire race. I'm not kidding, like this is the hardest I've ever seen an AI fight against you inside of a game, and to think that you have to go through all 8 courses without making any mistakes and fighting against an unfair AI that can do things that you can't do, I'm not sure the game was even meant to be beaten. And so therefore, I think the best bet is before you go into every single race, just create a save state. And then if you don't get the place that you want for the points that you need, revert back to it and try that race again and sort of take like your best of when it comes to your 8 races here. I'm just saying, fight fire with fire. If they're using a tool for their advantage, you can use a tool for your advantage as well. Now, when you finally finish all the courses in 800cc, you get all the points that are required. You're going to get the end of the game here. It's going to say Ogle is the world champion, and it's going to go into credits as well as footage here of basically a flawless race. Like the things that they do in this race are far better and far more skilled than what I could do. And I'm going to even say even more skilled than what the hardest AI can do. I'm not sure how they're performing at this particular level. It almost feels like a tool assisted speedrun to a degree. But either way, they are doing a fantastic job of racing through here that I never could, as far as like showing you the credits off. But also in the credits, you are getting this amazing song in the background. I'm not kidding when I say it's probably one of the best songs of any Game Boy game I've played. This has a great driving beat in the background, a multi-tone or multi-instrument tracks coming in. Great song. I'll let a little bit play right here. I'm telling you, it's a fantastic tune, and it will definitely end up on some of my playlists. And then it does close out here by showing like a little helmet, and it says presented by Nintendo. Now, like I said, that's only one of the 2 game modes. There's also the slalom game mode, and slalom is going to be like an obstacle course, and it's going to be way easier. And if you're looking for a way just simply to finish the game without using save states or anything like that, and you want the credits to roll, this is the direction that you're going to go in order to consider finishing the game. Now, slalom here, you're basically going to have an obstacle course. And so when you go into 550cc, you're going to have 4 obstacle courses you're going to go through. Race 1 is the Bahamas. There are 8 flags or 8 little gates that you have to go through with checkered flags in order to collect. Now, your goal is to collect as many flags as you can before your enemies can collect them. And so you basically just sort of race out there and run through all these little goals, collect your flags, and when all the flags are collected, that race is over, and then you go on to your next one here. Now, in the Bahamas, I did collect 4 of the 8 flags, and I don't think there's any way to get more than 4, just simply because you have to choose one direction to go on according to the map here. Now, when you go into Hawaii, it's basically divided into 4 individual quadrants, and you sort of have to pick your direction, which way you want to go on. You collect 1 flag, and you have to sort of go around the little bumpers here to get to another one. I got 2 of the 4 flags. I don't see any way you could get all 4 once again, because you just sort of have to choose which direction you want to go in. Corsica is going to be your next one here, and it's going to be 10 individual ones you can go through. Very much of an obstacle course. You just sort of choose or map out a course that you feel is going to be the best direction. And in pretty much any course you go on, if you just use your boost a little bit, you will always beat the AI all the way through national champion or international and even the 800cc. It's very simple as far as like the AI goes here. Rio is going to be 12 points that you can go through, very similar layout. And when you finish this, you get a very similar victory scene as you would have gotten in the circuit mode, and you advance to 650cc. Now you're going to get the exact same 4 you go through initially, but 2 new ones here. You can get Sydney, which is going to be pretty much all scattered about. A pretty interesting one here. Miami's also going to be sort of separated by cages, and you sort of have to use the bumpers here to jump over it and then collect a little flag and then use a bumper to jump back out of it. It's one of the more interesting courses. I actually like the Miami course quite a bit here. When you finish up 650cc, then you move to 800cc. 2 more courses that are add on to the end of it. You get Fiji, which is almost like a checkerboard pattern. You're going through here. It has a very natural flow. It's like as far as if you pick a particular path, you can just sort of go through that, and there's really no main obstacles as you're going. And when you finish your path up here, just sort of race to whichever one is left in order to get that extra point there. And then Bali's gonna be your last one. It's sort of random again, but there are tons of ramps so you can sort of jump over some of the bumpers if you want to make some shortcuts on your own. I actually like the idea of having ramps that jump over bumpers, and I wish that was implemented more in the circuit game mode, so you could actually have like some shortcuts and whatnot to make it a little bit more, I don't know, innovative, I guess. The circuit mode I liked, but I really enjoyed this obstacle course mode a heck of a lot more, and of the two, this is the one I'm more likely to go back and play again. Now, when you do finish up the national mode, you unlock international, and when you go through international or world mode, you once again get the credits to roll. This mode here is nowhere near as difficult. This mode here can easily be beaten on the world stage, with most players not really experience too much frustration as you're going through it. And when you do finish it, you get the same little cutscene here at the end, you get the same credits roll, you get the same little Nintendo helmet at the close. It's all going to be exactly the same. So if you're looking for a way to finish the game or beat the game, this game mode is definitely the way to go on. But at the same time, if you want a extraordinarily challenging gameplay, go for the circuit mode. But let's talk about the game as an overall here. Now, me personally, I really do like this game. I enjoy both game modes. I do prefer the obstacle course mode over the traditional racing, but that's mainly just simply because the traditional racing AI is so incredibly hard. If you tone down the AI a little bit, I'd probably enjoy both game modes on a pretty similar level. The overall mechanics, as far as controlling your water ski, it feels very natural. The little drift around the corners feels natural. Trying to figure out when to use your boost, when to let off the gas. All that just feels like a very well-crafted game. And I do enjoy a challenge on that circuit mode, but it does feel like they just upped it a little bit too hard and made the AI a little bit unfair in a lot of cases. And so that is a little bit of a knockback against the game. As far as soundtrack goes, the closing song in the game, like I said, is one of the best songs I've ever heard inside of a Game Boy game. Love that song. Some of the other songs and the sound effects are sort of average throughout. I will say the map in the bottom right hand corner when you're going through circuit mode, the blinking to try to create a transparency effect, I didn't really like that, and I didn't figure out until pretty much almost the end of the game. You press select, you can actually make that just simply stay solid, and that's a huge help there, and I really wish I had noticed that earlier. Having a map in general, though, is a huge benefit on these old school racing games, because you can basically anticipate when the corners are coming up and how sharp that curve is going to be. A lot of the racing games of this era do not have a map, and that's a huge knockback against those particular racing games. A map is pretty much necessary when going through them. But overall, two excellent game modes, and then the multiplayer. I didn't get a chance to play the multiplayer, but I can only imagine the obstacle course multiplayer is just simply a blast to go through. But overall, these type of games are down my alley. I've always loved Micro Machines on NES, and this is very similar to that. So it's a really fun game. They just simply need to tone down some of the difficulty. So I'm going to give it as an overall score here. I'm going to give it a 7. Just simply going to knock a couple points off because of the overbearing difficulty on that one-player mode. But outside of that, excellent game, and I think you should definitely give it a try. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.